Firewood isn't just wood, it is life. For most of human history, the difference between warmth and frostbite, between cooking your food and going hungry, was the quality of your firewood and the wisdom with which it was stored. Today, we think stacking a few logs in the yard under a tarp is enough. But in reality, most modern firewood storage methods would have been deadly 800 years ago. Wet, poorly seasoned wood doesn't just burn poorly, it produces smoke, soot, creosote, and wasted effort. Entire households depended on firewood every single day in the harshest winters, and failure wasn't an option. It was fatal. In northern Europe, from the snowbound fjords of Norway to the forests of Germany, people survived bitter temperatures not through modern gadgets or kilns, but through observation, experience, and deliberate engineering of their storage. And this knowledge has been largely forgotten. Today, I want to take you on a journey into that lost wisdom and show you how medieval firewood storage can teach us to stop wasting logs and start keeping warm efficiently. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to like this video, share it with anyone who burns wood, comment with your own experiences or frustrations with wet firewood, and subscribe to The Hard Past if you want more deep dives into forgotten practical knowledge from history. Supporting the channel ensures that these insights don't disappear the way so many others have. Now let's get into why your firewood fails you and what history can teach us about fixing it. The problem with modern firewood storage is simple. It assumes time alone will dry wood. Spring cuts stacked outdoors, often elevated slightly and sometimes covered with a plastic tarp, are left to sit for months. People expect that by winter the wood will be perfectly dry. But wood is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the air as easily as it releases it. Rain is only a part of the problem. Dew, humidity, and trapped moisture in the stack all conspire to keep your logs wet. Studies from universities show that firewood stored outdoors, even under a tarp, often retains over 25% moisture content after a full year. That is far too wet for efficient burning. Wood at that moisture level loses roughly a quarter of its heat potential. Chimneys fill with creosote, stoves smoke, and families burn twice the amount of wood just to achieve the warmth they need. Wet wood doesn't just cost money, it is a serious safety hazard. Chimney fires, which people often blame on faulty stoves, are almost always the result of burning wet logs. Medieval farmers couldn't afford these mistakes. Winter temperatures in Norway could drop below -30 degrees Celsius, homes were made of wood, often buried under snow, and insulation was minimal. And yet their firewood stayed dry and usable throughout the season. Archaeological studies show that firewood storage was rarely far from the home. Houses often shared walls with wood storage, livestock pens and granaries. Firewood sat under the same roofline, shielded from rain, but exposed to air movement. Heat escaping from the house created a slightly warmer microclimate that accelerated drying, while ventilation along the sides allowed moisture-laden air to escape. Roof overhangs prevented snow from piling on top, and wood was often stacked vertically, leaning slightly inward, with only the top protected by bark or rough planks. Experiments with reconstructed Viking homes confirm that this method dried wood significantly faster than modern outdoor stacks, sometimes cutting drying time in half. Different regions developed their own techniques. In Germany, circular stacks known as Holzhausen emphasized airflow while naturally shedding rain. In Norway, wood was arranged near house walls to maximize warmth and airflow. The principle remained constant. Keep water off, maintain ventilation, and use heat strategically. Dense woods like oak were placed in warmer areas to ensure complete drying, while faster drying species were positioned for easier access. Dryness was judged by weight sound and visible cracking, an exact science refined over generations. These methods weren't guesswork, they were survival. Every detail, from elevation above the ground to the angle of a leaning stack, was carefully designed to prevent moisture accumulation. After World War II, this knowledge faded. Electricity, oil and gas replaced wood as the primary heat source, and firewood became decorative rather than essential. When wood stoves returned during energy crises, the old storage techniques were, largely forgotten. Kiln-dried wood became a commodity, chimney cleaning a routine expense, and wetwood became normalized because it was convenient for industries to profit from it, not because it was unavoidable. You can apply these medieval principles today without building a Viking longhouse. A simple lean-to attached to your home, garage or barn recreates the same conditions. One shared wall, an open front, ventilated sides and a sloped roof. Just elevate the stack slightly, leave some space between the wall and the wood, and let airflow do the work. If attachment isn't possible, well, just adapt the idea. Covered porches, balconies, or even freestanding stacks with open sides and top protection all work, provided air moves freely. Understanding why these methods work is far more important than simply copying a design. Dry firewood was never about luck. It was about creating the right environment, balancing protection from water with exposure to air, and, taking advantage of warmth. The medieval farmer survived not because winters were easier, but because he understood them. That knowledge still works today. You don't need modern technology to achieve optimal firewood dryness. You need observation, design and respect for natural processes. Apply these lessons, and the logs you burn this winter will produce more heat, less smoke, and honestly, fewer problems. If this video helped you see how much modern firewood storage gets wrong, go ahead and subscribe to The Hard Past. Share this with anyone who burns wood, comment about your own experiences, and help keep these forgotten survival strategies alive. The past is not just history, it is a toolkit. With it, you can be warmer, safer, and more efficient this winter, just as our ancestors were.